If you were like me, you have just recently joined the ranks of Exiles by starting out in Path of Exile 2. If you were really like me, you may now be wondering how you managed to miss out on the original title, Path of Exile, for the last 10 plus years. To throw salt in this wound, there is now a very exciting event in Path of Exile 1 happening at the time of this video called Legacy of Fresia. And you may be wondering if it is worth jumping into Path of Exile 1 this late in the game. My short answer is yes, it is definitely worth your time. In this video, I will share my experience as a brand new Exile comparing both titles and why I think it is worth your time to play both games. Let's be honest, there was a lot of hype behind the Path of Exile 2 early access launch. According to SteamDB, over 500,000 players logged in, and this is just from the Steam client. To put that in perspective, Path of Exile 1 all-time peak was in July 2024 at just over 200,000. This peak occurred during the release of the last PoE 1 expansion, Settlers of Kalgur. This expansion was well received and introduced major updates to the game, such as a much desired currency exchange and a brand new mechanic to build and manage your very own township, King's March.
Stop the foundling! Quickly! He's escaping!
Overall, Path of Exile 2 has introduced many new players to the world of Rayclast. Judging by Steam reviews, Reddit, and my own player-to-player interactions, I'd say many of those new players are here to stay. What hooked me in Path of Exile 2 was the updated, Souls-like combat system in an ARPG. I had grown accustomed to a more simplistic, click-and-point combat style, and was quite frankly shocked at how difficult the campaign felt at first. I jumped into this game expecting to blast through the campaign into the end game, never to be bothered with the main quest line again. This proved to be a genre-shattering realization for me. An ARPG could have an engaging, difficult campaign, fun enough to play over and over and over and over. I'm not going to spend too much time reviewing Path of Exile 2. In short, I have nearly 400 hours played, and I have not even experienced the endgame. Instead, I chose to lean all the way into the difficulty of the campaign and play the game in a blind, hardcore, solo self-bound challenge. As of this video, I am still trying to complete that challenge, and still having fun trying to do so. In order to complete such a difficult challenge for myself, I needed to stay focused. I needed to avoid other games. I needed to win. And right about at the time where I could see light at the end of this tunnel, I started hearing whisperings of a legacy, a place, or an entity named Fresia, in a game I never thought I would play. This was it. I was at Doriani's doorstep in cruel difficulty. This was surely the end of my blind hardcore solo self-found challenge. There was no way I could possibly die here. And then I died there, with the end of my own personal Path of Exile in sight. This heartbreak occurred the day before Legacy of Fresia was due to release. I had already planned to celebrate this victory by relaxing in softcore in a new game on a new beach. Instead, I now had the difficult choice of continuing my HCSSF challenge on a fresh character in Path of Exile 2, or taking a much-needed break and enjoying the PoE 1 event. I chose the latter and started a Templar in Path of Exile 1. Honestly, I did not think I would enjoy the original title nearly as much as I enjoyed the shiny new version of Rayclast. I would again be wrong in my assumptions. As it turns out, Path of Exile 1 starts out much like Path of Exile 2, exiled on a beach. It was fun and enlightening to see the inspirations and beginnings in reverse order. I was seeing familiar NPCs and drawing parallels between the games that I would never have understood as a new player focused only on Path of Exile 2. Additionally, the mechanics and systems in Path of Exile 1 are more complex with less explanation. However, I was able to draw on my own experience in Path of Exile 2 to quickly pick up on the mechanics, although different. And this is where I believe new Path of Exile 2 players have a distinct advantage over previous new exiles who had to begin with Path of Exile 1. The learning curve in PoE 1 is so steep that many new players end up dropping the game before realizing its full potential. My Path of Exile 2 experience drastically flattened my own learning curve and allowed me to enjoy PoE 1 in the early game rather than struggle with mechanics. Another pleasant surprise for me was that my stash tabs had carried over from Path of Exile 2. This was actually a big selling point from GGG in the development years that many new PoE 2 players probably do not know about. This mere fact alone essentially means that Path of Exile 2 players have 2 games for the price of 1. Path of Exile 1 is truly free to play when you carry your stash tabs back to the original title. The only question remaining is whether or not Path of Exile 1 is worth your time. My answer is a resounding yes. PoE 1 Steam numbers have continued to steadily grow over time and peaked in time for the latest expansion for good reason. It is a great expansion. For new exiles, it is important to understand that much of the expansion content released over the last 10 plus years is still in the game. GGG has adopted a model of trying to keep the best expansion content in the game rather than ripping and replacing content every league start. This means that new players can experience much of what the veteran players have experienced over the last 10 plus years. And you can do this on your own time. There really is no time pressure if Path of Exile 2 is your main game. Additionally, 10 plus years of expansion content and leagues means that the endgame mechanics, classes, and builds are all very well defined and fleshed out. This is not the case at all in Path of Exile 2, which is still in early access, and is missing the final 3 acts of the campaign and overall lacking in engaging endgame mechanics. For those Path of Exile 2 players who found themselves disappointed over the lack of endgame, fret not and head over to Path of Exile 1. If you are a casual like me, this is guaranteed to keep you engaged and entertained until PoE 2 content drops. I highly recommend new exiles play both Path of Exile 1 and 2. Now is a great time to jump from PoE 2 to PoE 1 and try out the new Legacy of Fresia Ascendancies. As a new player, you won't even know the difference from the old Ascendancies. Then, when the event is over, you can experience new old Ascendancies. And if you really liked the new Ascendancies, you can join a Legacy of Fresia private league to keep the good times rolling. There is so much content packed into these 2 titles for new exiles. I have never been so excited to play a new title, and I hope this video helped you decide whether or not to dive into Path of Exile 1.